I already know people are going to say I'm stingy or controlling, but that couldn't be further from the truth. My husband and I are child-free, yes, but we've poured so much into his sister's kids over the years that sometimes I feel like we have raised children just without the title. His sister has 3 kids. The oldest, a daughter, is finishing college right now. Then there's the middle son, 18, who's about to graduate high school, and the youngest, 17, still has a year left before he's out. When I say we've been generous, I mean generous. We've paid for birthday trips, new laptops, braces, car insurance, summer programs, you name it. But the biggest contribution was college. When the oldest, their daughter, got accepted, we stepped in and paid her tuition in full. Every semester, directly to the school. She was so grateful. She wrote us letters, thanked us at every family gathering, even picked up side jobs because she didn't want us to think she was just taking advantage. She's been a joy to support. And, naturally, there was always the assumption that we'd do the same for the boys when their time came. Not because anyone asked us to, but because that's what we had done before. My husband and I had discussed it vaguely, nothing concrete, but we both felt like helping them through school. If they wanted to go, would be a meaningful way to invest in their futures. Well, apparently, that assumption turned into entitlement. The 18-year-old, the one about to graduate high school, came to us recently. At first, we were excited. We thought he wanted to talk about college applications, maybe ask us to look over an essay, or talk through options. Instead, he looked us straight in the face and said, "College is a waste of money. Just give me the money instead." I nearly choked. He wasn't asking us to pay for school like we had for his sister. He wanted us to hand him a lump sum of tens of thousands of dollars. No plan, no accountability, just cash. My husband and I told him no. We've never just handed over money, not to his sister, not for birthdays, not for anything. We always pay the school or the program directly, and if he didn't want to go to school, fine. But then he needed a plan, trade school, community college, a business proposal, something concrete. He flipped, said we were playing favorites, that we didn't trust him, that if we really cared, we'd just give him the money to do what he wanted. I won't lie, I lost my temper. After all these years of giving, to be spoken to like that stung. Eventually, he slumped back in his chair, muttered an apology and said fine, he'd go to college if that's what it took. My husband and I exchanged a look, and we tentatively agreed, semester by semester. We'd pay directly, just like we had for his sister. But the bad taste lingered. Gratitude wasn't in his voice. It was bargaining, manipulation, trying to get what he wanted by pushing. So, am I the jerk for refusing to hand over a lump sum to my nephew when he asked for college money? First comment, NTA. You've been more than generous. Paying tuition directly is the responsible thing to do. Handing a teenager thousands in cash with no plan would be irresponsible. Second comment, NTA. Honestly, the entitlement is shocking. His sister set the example by being grateful. If he can't even manage basic respect, he doesn't deserve a dime. Update 1. Dinner was supposed to be simple. We were invited over, and I told myself this would be a chance to reset after the argument about money. The niece greeted us warmly, as always, thanking us for supporting her through school. She doesn't have student loans at all because of us, and she's never once forgotten it. If anything, she overthanks. It's nice to feel appreciated. Then the boys came into the kitchen, both slouched down at the table. No, hi, no acknowledgement. The 18-year-old smirked and said, "So, when are you guys sending me my college money?" He said it like it was a subscription service he was waiting on, not thousands of dollars. His younger brother snorted and added, "Yeah, better hurry up before she spends it all on whatever she spends it on." I blinked and said, "Excuse me." That's when the 17-year-old leaned back in his chair, looked me right in the eye and said, "Come on, we're just saying. You're kind of an ugly bitch. But hey, it's just a joke." The words hit me like a slap. My fork clattered against my plate. My husband immediately said, "Watch your mouth." Their father jumped in before I could speak. "Oh, calm down. They're just joking around. Boys will be boys." Their mother nodded quickly. "Exactly. Don't make a scene. They didn't mean it." I stared at them in disbelief. "That's not a joke. That's disrespectful." The boys laughed, really laughed, heads together, muttering to each other like I couldn't hear. The 18-year-old smirked and said under his breath, "Man, she's sensitive." The younger one chuckled. "Told you she'd blow up." My husband's face went red. He said, louder this time, "You two need to apologize right now." Their father shook his head, waving a hand. "Oh, for God's sake, it was a joke. Don't start lecturing them in my house." Their mother added, "You guys are overreacting. This is supposed to be a family dinner. Relax." The niece tried to speak up. It wasn't funny, but the boys drowned her out by chuckling even louder, elbows nudging each other. I could feel my eyes stinging. I pushed my chair back. My voice shook, but I got the words out. "Until you apologize, neither of you are getting a single dime. Not tuition, not books, nothing." The boys just smirked, still laughing quietly between themselves. Their father muttered, "You're ridiculous." Their mother sighed, "You're really going to hold money over their heads for a joke?" We left early. I cried in the car, not because I doubted myself, but because after everything we've done, after all the years of giving, this is what we got in return: mockery and laughter while their parents excused it. So, am I the jerk for refusing to fund my nephew's college until they apologize for calling me names? First comment, NTA. That wasn't a joke, that was cruel. The fact that their parents defended it makes it even worse. You're setting a completely reasonable boundary. Second comment, NTA. They humiliated you and then doubled down with laughter. If their parents can't teach them respect, then maybe losing this money will. Update 2. I should have known it wouldn't end at that dinner. The very next day, my phone started blowing up with messages from my husband's sister. At first, it was short stuff. "We need to talk." Then it escalated. "I don't appreciate you embarrassing my boys." Then, "You've always had a soft spot for niece's name, but never for the boys." I sat there staring at the screen, feeling my stomach twist. Embarrassing her boys? They embarrassed me. They laughed in my face, called me names, and then doubled down while their parents defended them. And somehow I'm the one who caused a scene. When I didn't reply right away, she called. I put it on speaker so my husband could hear every word. She launched into a speech about how teenage boys joke differently and how I need to lighten up. She kept saying the word overreacting until it lost meaning. She said, "Do you know how humiliating it was for me when you stormed out? My friends were asking why you were so uptight." My husband finally interrupted and said, "They called my wife an ugly bitch at the dinner table. That's not a joke." There was a pause on the line before she sighed and said, "They didn't mean it like that. You know how boys tease. If you were really part of this family, you'd understand." That's when I realized it wasn't just about the money. It was about control. They wanted us to keep paying. No questions asked, no boundaries allowed. As long as the money flowed, we were supposed to swallow whatever insults came our way. Later that night, her husband texted mine. It was basically the same script. "Relax. They were just having fun. Don't ruin your relationship with them over one bad night." Then, the kicker. "If you cut them off, everyone will know you're playing favorites with niece's name." That line hit me hard. We didn't favor her. She respected us. She thanked us. She treated us like people, not walking wallets. That's why supporting her felt good, not like a transaction. The difference wasn't favoritism, it was respect. But of course, the guilt tripping didn't stop there. Other family members started chiming in. My stepsister sent a message saying, "Just let it go, they're kids." An aunt I barely talked to wrote, "It's not worth the drama, you have the money, don't be petty." Even my mother-in-law got involved, telling us, Don't start a family war over a joke. Meanwhile, the boys kept smirking through every interaction. When we dropped by to pick something up, they leaned against the doorway and said, "Guess we're not getting our apology money yet, huh?" Then they chuckled to each other like it was the funniest thing in the world. I can't tell you how small that made me feel, like they'd managed to twist the whole family around until we were the problem. My husband held me that night while I sobbed into his chest, saying over and over, "How did we become the villains in this story?" So, am I the jerk for refusing to cave to family guilt and insisting the boys apologize before we support them? First comment, NTA. This isn't favoritism, it's consequences. The niece showed respect, the boys didn't. End of story. Second comment, NTA. The family is enabling their behavior. If you give in now, you'll just be proving that cruelty works. Update 3. I knew walking into the next family gathering that it was going to be bad. I could feel it in my stomach, the way you know a storm's coming long before the clouds roll in. It was a birthday dinner for my mother-in-law, and skipping it would have just added fuel to the fire. Everyone would have said we were sulking, holding grudges, punishing the boys. So we went, against our better judgment. From the moment we arrived, the tension was thick. The niece greeted us warmly, bless her, and even whispered to me, "I'm sorry about my brothers." But the boys, they were leaning in the corner, grinning like hyenas. The 18-year-old gave me this mock solemn nod and said, "Oh look, the bankers are here." His younger brother elbowed him and added, "Don't forget, they charge interest if you make them mad." They both laughed so hard they nearly doubled over. I wanted to walk back out the door, but I plastered on a smile and went to sit with my husband and the niece. For about 20 minutes, I tried to ignore them, but they didn't stop. During dinner, they whispered loudly to each other, making comments just barely out of earshot for everyone else but crystal clear to me. "Better be nice. Maybe she'll pay for dessert." "Ugly bitch, probably still mad." "Careful, she cries easy." At one point, I snapped, "Do you think this is funny?" And they both looked at me wide-eyed, all faux innocence. "We're just joking. You're too sensitive," the older one said, shrugging. The younger added, "Yeah, you act like we kicked your dog or something." Their mother laughed nervously, waving her hand and saying, "They're just teasing. Don't give them the reaction they want." Their father smirked and muttered, "You always did blow things out of proportion." That was it. I felt my whole body shake. I told them clearly, "This isn't a joke. This is harassment. If you think we're going to pay for college while you call me names and laugh in my face, you're delusional." You would have thought I'd thrown a glass of wine across the table from the reaction. My husband's sister gasped and said, "So you're going to ruin Mum's birthday with this?" The father chimed in, "You've already humiliated yourself once. Now you want to do it in front of the whole family?" An aunt said, "Oh, just ignore them, they're kids." My mother-in-law frowned and muttered, "Why can't you just let things go?" And the boys, they just chuckled to each other, low and smug, like they'd scored another point. My husband finally exploded. He slammed his hand down on the table and said, "Enough! You don't talk to my wife like that. You don't laugh at her like that. Until you both apologize, there will be no money for either of you. None." His voice was so firm, the table went dead silent. I burst into tears. Not because I disagreed, but because I was so tired of being made the punchline, while the people who hurt me were shielded under the excuse of jokes. I excused myself to the bathroom, sat there shaking, and listened to muffled voices through the door. I could hear their mother saying, "They're just teenagers," and my husband's voice saying, "They're old enough to know better." By the time I came back out, dessert was being served. Nobody looked at me. The boys had smirks plastered on their faces. I felt like I'd been stripped down in front of everyone. On the drive home, I told my husband, "I don't know if I can keep doing this. It's like no matter what they say or do, I'll always be the one accused of overreacting." He just held my hand and said, "Then maybe it's time we stop trying to prove ourselves to people who don't respect us." So, am I the jerk for calling out my nephews in front of the whole family when they mocked me again at dinner. First comment, NTA. They aren't little kids, they're nearly adults. If they can drive, vote, and graduate, they can be held accountable for their words. Second comment, NTA. You didn't ruin the dinner. They did. Everyone else is just enabling them because it's easier than confronting bad behavior. Update 4. After the birthday dinner, I thought maybe, just maybe, the boys would finally realize they'd gone too far. They'd been publicly called out, their uncle had slammed his hand on the table, and everyone had seen how shaken I was. I figured the embarrassment alone might sober them up, but instead, the days that followed were worse than the dinner itself. The group chat lit up like a firestorm. His sister sent the first volley. You humiliated my boys in front of the entire family. They're heartbroken. Heartbroken, as if they were the victims, as if me crying in the bathroom while they whispered about me being an ugly bitch hadn't happened. Then came the text from her husband. You've always played favorites. You made our daughter the golden child because she kissed up to you, and now you're punishing our boys for being themselves. I actually laughed when I read that, but it was a bitter laugh. Being themselves. If themselves is mocking me, disrespecting me, and laughing at me in front of the family, then yes, I guess I am punishing that. The niece even texted me privately, apologizing again for her brother's behavior and saying she was embarrassed for them. She told me she'd tried to talk to them, but they brushed her off, saying, "It doesn't matter, they'll pay eventually, they always do." That broke me. That showed me exactly how little they respected us. We were just a resource to exploit, not people to treat with kindness. And then the wider family weighed in. An aunt wrote in the chat, "College is expensive. If you can help, you should. Don't let petty arguments ruin their futures." A cousin chimed in, "You're holding their education hostage to prove a point. That's cruel." My mother-in-law even called us directly to say, "Do you really want to be remembered as the reason those boys didn't go to college?" I sobbed after that call. My husband wrapped his arms around me and said, "We are not responsible for their futures. We offered help with conditions and they mocked you. That's on them." He's right. I know he's right, but the constant pressure from the family made me second-guess myself. Am I really the villain here? Have I let pride take over? And then I remembered the look on their faces at that dinner, the smug laughter, the way they whispered to each other while their parents defended them. That wasn't pride on my part. That was pain. That was self-respect. We messaged his sister one final time, clearly. Until the boys apologize sincerely, there will be no financial support from us. If they want to go to college, they can apply for loans or earn our help back through respect. We are not changing our minds. The replies came fast and furious. His sister called me controlling. Her husband called us selfish. An aunt accused us of ruining the boys' futures. The boys themselves. They sent laughing emojis. That told me everything I needed to know. So, am I the jerk for holding firm that the boys won't see a dime until they apologize, even though the whole family is calling me cruel? First comment, NTA. You're not ruining their futures, they are. All they had to do was show a basic level of respect. Actions have consequences. Second comment, NTA. The family is piling on because it's easier to pressure you than to hold the boys accountable. Don't cave. Update 5. I've been going back and forth in my head ever since the last blow-up. Every time I close my eyes, I see those smug grins on the boys' faces, the way they chuckled to each other while I sat there at the dinner table, trying not to cry. It's like the sound of them laughing has lodged itself in my chest. I keep replaying it, the 17-year-old leaning back, calling me an ugly bitch and then immediately saying, "It's just a joke." The 18-year-old nudging him and smirking like they were in on some private game. And then everyone else telling me to relax, to calm down, to stop overreacting. It's been weeks and I still feel raw, like the insult just happened yesterday. What gets me the most isn't even the boys themselves. Teenagers can be cruel, I know that. What eats me alive is how their parents defended it. My husband's sister, waving her hand like it was nothing. Their father smirking and saying, "I always blow things out of proportion." An aunt chiming in that I should just ignore it. Even my mother-in-law asking me why I couldn't just let it go. It felt like I was the only adult in the room saying, "No, this isn't okay." And instead of support, I got scolded like I was the problem. Do people not realize how much we've given? I keep wanting to shout it from the rooftops. We are not rich people lounging on piles of money. My husband and I worked for everything we have. We live comfortably because we've been careful, not because it was handed to us. And yet, every time there's been a need in this family, we've stepped up. Braces, summer camps, laptops, sports teams, Christmas gifts when their parents couldn't swing it, and then of course, paying the niece's tuition. We never once asked for repayment. We never dangled it over their heads. We just gave. Gladly. Because we thought we were helping build futures. And now here I am, painted as the monster for saying enough. How is it favoritism to support the one child who treated us with respect? The niece never once acted entitled. She wrote us thank you notes every semester. She made time to sit down with us and tell us what she was learning. She's graduating with honors this spring. She made it all feel worthwhile. If the boys had shown even an ounce of that attitude, we'd be celebrating them too. Instead, they laughed in my face and told me I was too sensitive for not finding their insults funny. The pressure from the family hasn't stopped. We've had phone calls, texts, group chats, all the same script. Don't ruin their futures. Don't play favorites. Don't hold money over their heads. At one point, my husband's sister actually said, if you cared about them as much as your niece, you'd just pay and move on. Pay and move on. As if money is some endless tap we can turn on without conditions. As if respect costs nothing. We talked about it endlessly, my husband and I. Nights lying awake, me crying, him holding my hand. I asked him, are we being too harsh? Should we just pay and avoid the fight? And he always said the same thing. No. Respect is the bare minimum. He's right, and deep down, I know he's right. So we've made our decision. We are not paying for the boys' college. Not a cent. Not until and unless they come to us with real apologies, not smirks and half jokes. If they choose to take out loans, that's their choice. If they want to work, that's their choice. We are not responsible for their futures, no matter how much the family tries to tell us we are. We are responsible for protecting our own dignity. And here's the thing. Once we stopped going back and forth, once we put it in writing to his sister, there will be no financial support unless the boys apologize sincerely. I felt lighter. Sad, yes, but lighter. I can't carry the burden of trying to buy love and respect anymore. It clearly doesn't work. I don't know what the long-term fallout will be. The niece is still close with us and has made it clear she doesn't agree with her brothers. The wider family will probably keep whispering about how cold I am. Maybe the boys will grow up one day and realize what they threw away. Maybe they won't. But either way, the decision is made. So, am I the jerk for finally cutting off my nephews completely after years of generosity because they couldn't give me the bare minimum of respect? First comment, NTA. You've gone above and beyond for that family. Respect is the absolute least they could have given you, and they couldn't even manage that. Second comment, NTA. You're not ruining their futures. You were trying to fund them. They ruined their chances by acting entitled and cruel. Final update. It's been a year since that final blow-up, and I can say without hesitation that my husband and I are happier than we've ever been. The boys didn't apologize right away. In fact, they dug their heels in at first, acting like we'd cave eventually. They both graduated high school, but when the fall semester rolled around, neither had tuition covered. We didn't write checks. We didn't step in. For the first time, they had to deal with the reality of what student loans and deadlines actually look like. About 3 months into the school year, the 18-year-old came by the house. He stood there on our porch, shuffling his feet, mumbling something about being sorry. His younger brother followed a week later, same routine, eyes on the ground, half-hearted we didn't mean it speech. But by then, it was too little, too late. They weren't apologizing because they truly felt remorse. They were apologizing because they needed money. We told them calmly but firmly that the door had closed. Respect was the price of our support, and they had laughed in our faces too many times. My husband said it best. There's no buy-in after the deadline. Actions have consequences. And honestly, it felt liberating. For years, we'd been guilt-tripped into spending on kids who didn't value us. Once we stopped, we realized how much of our time and money had been funneled into people who mocked us. So instead, we redirected that energy. We've taken trips, real vacations, just the two of us. We've gone out to dinners with friends who actually enjoy our company. We've used that money to live instead of being treated like an ATM. I thought I'd feel sad about cutting ties. Instead, I feel lighter. The niece still visits us, and she's thriving. She's grateful, she's kind, and she's someone we're proud to support. The boys? They'll have to figure it out on their own, and I'm okay with that.